Hi everyone, welcome. So let's resume our topic, Dream of the Russian Tropics. So where we are yesterday, I think we need to start a new series and which is this one. Sarit's visitors discovered the South Caucasus as capable to yield tropical commodity to satisfy the metropole. Writing about the latter as a Saris tropical colony, Buchanan followed in the footsteps of many of his contemporaries and the predecessors who propagate this view. Due to their efforts, by the turn of the 20th century, the South Caucasus had come to the form associated with the idea of tropicality. The dream of the Russian tropics was not a new fin de siècle passion. It had been haunting different layers of the Tsarist society since the moment Russia first secured its dominion over the region. So what this passage is basically saying is that writing about the latter as a Tsarist tropical colony, Buchanan followed in the footsteps of many of his contemporaries and the predecessors who propagated this view. So by writing that Tsarist tropical colony, writing letter as a Tsarist tropical colony, Buchanan followed the footsteps of his predecessors. Due to their efforts, by the turn of the 20th century, the South Caucasus had come to be firmly associated with the idea of the tropicality. So it's not the effort of the Buchanans itself. It's had the effort of Buchanan along with his predecessors who earlier knew about it and wrote a letter for the same. Due to their effort, the South Caucasus became associated with the idea of tropicality. The dream of the Russian tropic was not a new fin de siècle passion. It says that tropics is not just a new idea, it's not a new dream for the Russians. It's an old dream which now have some hope to come true. It had been haunting different layers of Tsarist society since the moment Russia first secured its dominion over the regions. After Russia taken over that Tsarist society, this things haunted those peoples in different layers. So the topic or title of this particular passage is A Dream of Idea of Tropicality. Dream of idea of tropicality. And what we have taken from here is that first is Buchanan followed the footstep of his predecessors. First line is Buchanan follow footstep of his contemporaries and predecessors. First and the dream of the Russian of the tropic was not a new fun de siècle passion, because it's not new. If the people who started reading that they thought it's a new concept, but it's not a new concept. And it's haunting a different layer of the Tsarist society that we can take. Let's moving toward the next phases of this essay. In the opening decade of the 19th century, Imperial Russia expanded south of the Caucasus Mountains. Its challenge was true. It was ruled over not only at an extreme variegated social, cultural and political landscape, but also over an environment that differed from the rest of the empire. The one that was expected to open a new prospect for the imperial economy. Imperial travelers, scientists and officials appropriated various parts of this unfamiliar space through images and the tropes that emphasize the luxurious, exotic, exuberant nature of its scenery. The spectrum of the meaning attached to the South Caucasus was one way or another associated with the idea of the region's purported tropicality. Much like in an earlier 19th century India, which increasingly came to be perceived as part of the broader tropical world, as David Arnold had shown in his study, The Tropics and the traveling gaze. 2006. Saddest visitors discover the South Caucasus as capable to yield tropical commodity to satisfy the need of the metropole. Speculations about its tropical climate conditions define much of the imperial attitudes toward the region, believed to be able to produce nearly everything the southern climate might offer and nearly everything the imperial cause might need. So what this passage is saying that in the opening decade of the 19th century, Imperial Russia expanded south of the Caucasus Mountains. That in 19th century, Russia occupied the south of Caucasus Mountain. Its challenge was to rule over not only an extreme variated social, cultural, political landscape, but also over an environment that differed from the rest of the empire, the one that was expected to open a new prospects for the imperial economy. So, what the main motto behind the Russia to capture this place is because of its varied social, cultural, and political landscape and environment. And its environment, which is with the hope of imperial economy to generate economy from this part. Imperial travelers, scientists, and officials appropriated various parts of this unfamiliar space through the images and tropes that emphasize the luxurious, exotic, and exuberant nature of its scenery. So it says that because of that exotic, luxurious, and exuberant nature scenery that attract the traveler scientist for this unfamiliar space. Because just image of that this particular scenery is attracts lots of people. So if we capture this particular place, then it is more beneficial to us. That's why Russia is wanted to occupy this place. The spectrum of the meaning attached to the South Caucasus was one way or another associated with the idea of region's purported tropicality. And the another reason is that the tropicality of this region. That's also the attraction point for Russia to capture this place. Much like in early 19th century India, which increasingly came to be perceived as part of the broader tropical world, as David and Arnold had shown in his study The Tropics and the Traveling Gaze 2006, Sarato's visitors discovered the South Caucasus as capable to yield tropical commodities to satisfy the need of metropole. So what it say that like India, the South Caucasus also had the same capability to grow the tropical commodities which satisfy the metropole's people's need. Speculations about its tropical climate conditions define much of the imperial attitudes toward the region, believed to be able to produce nearly everything the southern climate might offer and nearly everything its imperial cause might need. So what the speculation tells about this climate is that imperial attitude toward the regions believes that region, South Caucasus, is able to produce nearly everything in southern climate and nearly everything the imperial cause might need. Means that climate region have capability to grow everything which a people need. So the title of this particular whole passage is Why South Caucasus is Center of Attraction to Russia. So what point we can take from here is that extremely variegated social, cultural, political landscape first, and another what we can take from here is that luxurious, exotic, exuberant nature of its scenery, and the reasons idea of the reason of purported tropicality. And the another we can say that capable to yield tropical commodity to satisfy the need of the metropoles, able to produce nearly everything to the southern climate might offer and nearly everything the imperial cause might need. That's all for this species. Let's moving toward the next species. Different authors entertain different opinions as to which part of the region best match their expectations of the tropics. Such was the great lowland of modern-day Azerbaijan, which an 1836 survey assured will become a nursery for the tropical plants and will substitute for Russia, Persia, India, and South America. The survey, commissioned by the imperial authorities as a compendium of statistical data about the South Caucasus to expose its natural riches, assessed that most of its territory possesses tropical quality. To make them work for the empire, the improvement of local agriculture was needed so that the South Caucasus as a colony could satisfy the demand of Russian manufacturers by its tropical and southern production in raw form. So basically what this passage is saying that the different author entertain different opinion as to which the part of the reason best matched their expectation to the tropic. So it says that different authors have different opinions about South Caucasus. That which reasons it's more beneficial and which have more expectation of the tropics. Such was the great lowland of modern days Azerbaijan, which an 1836 survey assured will become a nursery of tropical plants and will substitute for the Russia, Persia, India, and South America. One of the stories that one of the opinion is that the great lowland of modern day Azerbaijan will become a nursery of tropical plants and will be substitute for the Russia, Persia, India, and South America. This survey, commissioned by the imperial authority as a compendium of statistical data about the South Caucasus to expose its natural riches, assess that most of its territory possesses tropical quality. So what it says, that survey says that compendium of statistical data says that South Caucasus exposes its natural riches and access that most of its territory possesses tropical quality. That statistical data says that the South Caucasus have the ability or have the quality to possesses lots of tropical qualities. Means naturally rich place, we can consider that. To make them work for an empire, the improvement of local agriculture was needed so that the South Caucasus as a colony could satisfy the demand of Russian manufacturer by its tropical and southern production in raw form. Why South Caucasus is important for the Russia is that Russian economy is that for the local agriculture, it is needed that that South Caucasus fulfill or satisfy the demand of Russian manufacture by its tropical and southern production in raw form. How the title of this passage is How Russia Benefited from the South Caucasus Climate or South Caucasus Region. The first one is that will become a nursery for the tropical plant. Expose its natural riches, assess that the most of its territory possesses tropical qualities, and satisfy the demand of Russian manufacturers by its tropical and southern production in raw form. So moving toward the next. Such an outspoken, mercantile, colonial vision of Russia's new territorial acquisitions, driven by the fantasies about its elite tropicality, was a product of discourse about empire and environment that Tsarist officialdom borrowed from Western Europe. Colonialism was a joint enterprise in which the cross-fertilizations of ideas and policies across imperial states and their dependency contribute to the emergence of the shared vocabulary of imperialism, conceptualized by the Christophers Kamisics and Jonas Kirenbaum as imperial cloud. One of those who drew extensively on the trans-imperial repertoire of knowledge, images and practice was Egor Kangrin, the empire's finance minister and one of the first senior Tsarist officials who formulated the concept of the South Caucasus as a colony of exploitation. In 1827, he wrote, "Not without reason, the Transcaucasian province can be called our colony, which should bring for the state very important benefits of the product of southern climates." So what this passage is saying, such as outspoken mercantile colonial vision of Russian new territory acquisition driven by fantasies about its elite tropicality was a product of discourse about empire and environment that officialdom borrow from Western Europe. So what is the fantasies and outspoken mercantile and vision of the Russian new territory is that it's a driven fantasy about its elite tropicality, which is a product of discourse about imperial environment that Tsarist officialdom borrow from Western Europe. That whatever that the things and the whole reason offered by the South Caucasus, that things is adopted or invented by Tsarist officials and which is borrowed from the southwestern Europe. Colonialism was a joint enterprise in which the cross-fertilization of ideas, policy across imperial states and their dependency contribute to the emergence of the shared vocabulary of imperialism, conceptualized by the Christopher Kamisic and Jonas Kirenbaum as the imperial cloud. And the concept used in the southern Caucasus is known as the imperial cloud, which is a conceptualized by the Christopher Kamisic and the Jonas, which is that concepts about the idea of cross-fertilizations. So let's moving toward the next sentence. One of those who grew extensively on the trans-imperial repertoire of knowledge, images and practices was Egor Kankrin, the empire finance minister and one of the first senior Tsarist officials who formulated the concept of South Caucasus as a colony of exploitations. So it says that the first Tsarist officials, who is the empire's finance minister, used the term and formulated the concept for the South Caucasus is considered South Caucasus as a colony of exploitation. And why he's calling it an exploitation? Because the land is not the same which it used to be earlier. It has a land of lots of experiments, and we can say that people use it for their own benefits. In 1827, he wrote, "Not without reason, the Transcaucasian province can be called our colony, which should bring for the state very important benefit of the product of southern climate." He says he wrote that in 1827. He wrote that not without reason, the Transcaucasian province can be called our colony, which should bring for the state very important benefit of the product of southern climate. He said his colony is known for is very beneficial for them because of that colony means South Caucasus provide the product of southern climates. So what title we should give to the species is how southern Caucasus became no how southern Caucasus became the imperial cloud. That would be title. And what we can take from here is that officialdom borrow from Western Europe. That empire and environment is borrowed from Western Europe. First, we can see that. And the cross-fertilization of idea and the policy across imperial states and their dependency contribute to the emergence of the shared vocabulary of imperialism. That's why it is known as imperial cloud. And why it is? Because that result in bring for the state very important benefit of the product of southern climate. That's why it's called as well called a colony of exploitation. So let's moving toward the next paragraph. In the second quarter of the 19th century, when this idea proliferated, nobody knew that exactly this colonial commodity could be because of the want of any reliable scientific data. Colonial fantasies of the imperial bureaucracy about the tropical climate of the region led them to believe that the abundant supply of the sunshine in the South Caucasus would make for the cultivation of southern and tropical crops much needed by the Tsarist commerce, medicine and industry. So we just give the summary of the species. What the species is trying to say that. Okay. It says that in the second quarter of the 19th century, when this idea proliferated, nobody knew what exactly this colonial commodity could be. Nobody knows before in the second quarter of the 19th century. Why? Because of the want of the any reliable scientific data, colonial fantasies of the imperial bureaucracy about the tropical climate of the region led them to believe that the abundant supply of sunshine in South Caucasus would make for the cultivation of southern and tropical crops much needed by the Tsarist commerce and medicine industry. So it's just a question and answer. The species is just about one question and the followed by the answers. That why the people knew that what this colonial commodity could be. People are not actually know what's the benefit provided by the South Caucasus and why. Because any scientific data, colonial fantasy, the imperial bureaucracy about the tropical climate of the region led them to believe that the abundant supply of the sunshine in the South Caucasus could make for the cultivation southern and tropical crops much needed by the cereals commerce and medicine industry. So they say that they believe that the sunshine is the main cause for this regions to be cultivate that kind of a crops. That's the people don't know that actually this is the land of the concept using here is taken from the Western Europe. They thought that because of the sunshine they are able to produce that crops. So just summarize the species, nothing we can just give a title and put it out the point from here. So let's moving toward the next species. Environmental imaginaries of this kind result in early ambitious undertaking by the Russian imperial agents today. Alexander Gribaudev is mostly known as poet and playwright. However, apart from his literary passion, he had a passion for empire. As a Tsarist diplomat in Persia, he took pains to expand Russia's imperial shore south to the Caspian Sea. The neighboring South Caucasus, in his eyes, deserved a special arrangement akin to that of India vis-a-vis the British Empire. In 1828, Griboyedov put forward a project of the Transcaucasia Company, which would administer the province in a fashion similar to the East India Company. He bemoaned the fact that the Russian Empire imported commodities of the hot climate from the abroad, while it could obtain its own southern and even tropical production from the South Caucasus. The Transcaucasia Company, as a concert effort of entrepreneurial capitalists, would remedy the problem of producing, manufacturing, and exporting colonial products of the Russian metropole and the most distant part of the globe. The death of Griboud at the hand of an angry mob in Tehran the following years buried the project but not the idea of tropicality. So it's this passage is telling the story about the Griboid. Its names are difficult to pronounce. Griboidov, whatever. I just call it grip. Okay. So this passage is talking about the grip. The story of grip, like just India or India or East India Company, the Russia and the South Caucasus hold the story of the same. He says that just like East Indian Company, who took the raw materials from India and manufactured the finished product and produced the finished product in their own country, same as Russia. Instead of importing the thing from abroad, they are taking the things from South Caucasus. So the title of this whole passage is "The story of South Caucasus and Russia is same as East India Company and India." And why so? So let's take in from here is that first, administered the province in a fashion similar to the East India Company. The Russian Empire imported the commodities of the hot climate from abroad which could obtain its own southern and even tropical production from the South Caucasus. And remedy the problem of producing, manufacturing and exporting colonial product to the Russian metropole and the most distant part of the globe. That's why it's a similar. So let's moving toward the last species of today's video of this and this series as well. The local administrations was need to employ foreign, mostly French, experts in tropical agriculture to put this idea into practice. Among those who came to the South Caucasus was the botanist and agriculturist Joseph Elzier Morenus, who had a long record of colonial service in India and Senegal. His stay in Africa made him a vocal critic of slavery and brought him to Haiti, where Morenus admired the achievement of the anti-colonial revolution. He resented colonial slave trade but marveled at colonial commodities. In 1829, he ended up in South Caucasus at the invitation of the government. Instructed to bring out the most suitable area for plantation of exotic crops, Morenus suggested introducing sugarcane, oranges, lemon, coffee tree, indigo, and other plants of the tropics, arguing that some part of this region were not inferior to the best colonies in terms of its climate. The main hazards that awaited the planter, he warned, were local fever, not unlike those in tropical colonies. Morenus fell victim of one himself in 1830. So this whole passage is about agricultural Joseph Eliezer Morenus. The title of this passage is The Contribution of Joseph Eliezer Morenus. So what he said that what we can take it from is that the first is who is he? He is expert in tropical agriculture. No, sorry. Who is he? He is a botanist, actually, an agriculturalist. And what the idea is given to them that the people of the government of the South Caucasus introducing sugarcanes, lemons, coffee tree, indigo, and other plants of the tropic, introduction of the plants of tropic, and arguing that some part of this region were not inferior to the best colonies in terms of its climate, and what the hazard this region should face. The main hazard that awaited planter, he warned, were local fever, unlike those in tropical colonies. And in 1830, he himself victim of that. So that's all for this today's video. Hope you guys like it. Just meet you guys tomorrow with continuation of this series. As of now, have a